Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're watching this live. I'm Ashish Chhabria, and I'm the program manager for Azure Service Bus on the Azure messaging team. And today I'm excited to get you guys excited about the Java message service and the support for that on Azure Service Bus. So a quick look at the agenda today. We'll be quickly walking through what exactly is Java message service, how exactly do we go about using it, and then we're going to use the Spring Pet Clinic application that you've already seen for a demo, and then talk about the benefits of using Azure Service Bus. So, before we jump into, the Java message service, what exactly is it, right? I mean, a lot of folks, this is a Spring-focused session, and, you may be aware of it, but, just for completeness, the JMS is one of the most refined and one of the early attempts to have a universal API for messaging. And it really fits in with the Java credo of being able to code once and run anywhere, which means your application code looks exactly the same, and you can have it run locally against a different message broker. In the cloud, you have a different setup available, and all that is managed through your configuration itself. And like the last point talks about how you can seamlessly migrate across different messaging brokers, with the same concept of writing once and running anywhere. Well, the news today is that now we have this available in Azure Service Bus Premium, right? And what this means is that now with Azure Service Bus, you get a cloud scale turnkey messaging pass. We are available in all Azure regions, globally deployable. You can have high availability disaster recovery built in. We now have support for the familiar JMS API, which has been around for 22 years, and there's a lot of knowledge out there amongst the Java and Spring developer community. We can have the Spring apps, your existing Spring applications seamlessly point to Azure Service Bus. And with that, you can deploy your existing applications onto Azure Spring Cloud and leverage the best of messaging paths that's out there, right? So this sure sounds cool. I was very excited to have work on this feature, and how exactly can our Java and Spring customers leverage this feature, right? So like I mentioned, we want to fit into the Java credo of write once, run anywhere, and the whole focus here is to be able to allow you to bring your existing Spring applications and have them point to Service Bus with essentially no code changes, right? Configuration only, but essentially no code changes. So to that effect, all you need to do is bring in your existing Java or Spring application, plug in the appropriate dependency. So that's going to be a Maven package, the Azure Service Bus JMS, which we have shipped, which is built on top of the Cupid client itself. Or you use the Spring starter that we have for Azure Service Bus. And with the last piece, you plug in the configuration parameters, either in the configuration file or through the Spring application.properties, and then it works. It can connect to Service Bus like magic, right? Now this is obviously very, very interesting, and I still want to show you guys a demo just to show how it works. And thankfully, we're going to use the knowledge that we have gained by looking at the Spring Pet Clinic demos in the previous two demos, and kind of build on top of that. So as you know, the Spring Pet Clinic demo is a CRM mission critical software that's utilized for tracking pet owners, their pet visits, the doctor information as well. And let's say we want to essentially achieve the goal of improving customer engagement, right? And one way to do that is to essentially build up this pipeline wherein we inform the customer of their, essentially welcome them to our system, allow them to book appointments, give them those appointment reminders and confirmations. And once they have had a recent visit, we allow them to go and actually review the report that we send via email. Now, since this is a microservices application, obviously we decided to add another microservice to the mix. So we added a communication service over here, which leverages JMS, and this is responsible for sending all the appropriate email, calendar invites, and meeting notes and visit notes, etc. Now, all the other microservices use expose the REST API that is managed by the front end gateway. With this, because it's JMS, we want to be able to leverage the Azure Service Bus. So Azure Service Bus will be sitting right in the middle, and then with every action that happens over the other microservices, these will start sending messages to the appropriate Azure Service Bus queues and topics. Again, using only the JMS interfaces. On the other side, the communication service will receive the messages from these queues and subscription, and then process these, and then actually send out the emails to each of the customers. Right. So I have code in the upcoming slides, but I'll walk you through the actual demo and then showcase the code in Eclipse as well. Because I know as a Java developer, I love watching stuff in Eclipse. So this is a very familiar screen at this point. It's the Spring Pet Clinic application managed by the open source community, and this is something we're going to essentially build on top of. So we can look at the actual owners that we have listed out over here, and this is this is where we have all the owners listed out. And let's say we want to create a brand new owner, and behind the scenes we're actually going to send them an email welcoming them to the Pet Clinic CRM system, and allowing them to quickly view what actions they can actually do on our Pet Clinic application. So I just go ahead and actually create, register a new user. Now, thankfully, I have this form already prepared. And a certain John Doe who lives at 123 Main Street. I know it's just fake data, obviously. In Seattle, we're going to make an entry against that person's name. And the moment I hit submit, it'll enter the service bus queue, and the communication service will pick up this specific queue and then send them an email, right? So these are all the owners that we have created. A lot of this is coming in from a fake data that I'm running, and we see John Doe has entered the system. And behind the scenes, an email is being sent out. Now, obviously, since it's a large scale application, the queue is fairly large. All the requests are kind of coming in. So, to make it more straightforward, I actually put in, I already have these emails being delivered to my inbox. So this is a large queue of users that are coming in, and John Doe would essentially show up in the same list. So that's one aspect of it, with actually creating the owners. Let's say one of these owners actually needed to, they can actually come for a visit with their pet, and we want to be able to drop them a report based off of that. So let's say Betty had a hamster who was spayed the last time, and now we just want to do a follow-up vaccination. I'm not a pet owner, so I don't know what the sequence of events looks like. But let's say when we add a new visit, this would be sent to the actual topic, a service bus topic behind the scenes, and a subscription will be listening on that specific topic, and then again process that as an email request and send it out to our customers. So maybe I should do some of the auto scale to actually take the spike in the requests like we saw in the previous demo. Right. Yeah, so basically it would essentially show up over here, and the kind of visit report that we actually end up seeing would be visible over here. So it would essentially say your recent visit to Pet Clinic, and here's a summary, and we can obviously add more actions on top of that too. Now, we see the send and the receive aspects of this, and that's pretty standard service bus scenarios. Any message queuing system will allow you to send, receive messages, send to topics, and then receive from the subscriptions with, message selectors on top of it. But, for the purpose of this demo, we kept it fairly simple. But it'll also, with JMS, you also have the ability to browse the requests that are incoming on a queue. Now, what that typically means is that you can essentially look into all the data that's already queued up in the queue. You can browse through it and actually see what data is actually coming in. So we have that functionality also lined up. We essentially implemented the browse functionality, which will essentially query the owner created queue behind the scenes. And the moment this shows up, we'll actually look at the actual queue on the portal experience as well. So I basically have a function that's generating fake data, and that's actually showing up over here. I think we got it at an off time where we were essentially browsing and there were 0 owners, but because the queue has essentially been drained out. But the next run should be very quick. Let me just quickly restart that. And we essentially see the owners that have been created kind of lining up over here. So just give this a couple seconds. So we can actually come back to this screen. But in the meantime, I actually walk you through what's happening in Eclipse and what the code actually looks like, right? So, we obviously have, when we create an owner, we will accept that, as a REST API request. And then behind the scenes, we'll take a message and actually send it onto the queue. So this is essentially, when we create the owner, this is the actual controller that we run. And behind the scenes, all we need to do is essentially use the JMS template to convert and send to a destination, which is the created owner queue, right? So what I want to point over here is that none of this code is specific to Service Bus. This is completely independent, as business logic should be. Um, with Java developers, obviously, you'd like to see package imports, and that's exactly what I wanted to show you over here. Nothing specific to Service Bus. This is the standard Spring framework and the appropriate Spring JMS library as well, right? And the same thing applies when you actually go and create a new visit as well. It's the same JMS template, but in this case, we are sending it to a specific topic, which is created behind the scenes, right? With the browser resource as well, so this is when we try to actually create, browse the created owner queue. We would actually, again, use the JMS template itself, which is also on the Spring JMS library, and then go ahead and actually browse the queue, with the business logic being completely independent of Service Bus, right? So now, since we have done that, let's quickly look at this, and there we go. So this is this page is specifically browsing what's currently on the queue itself right now. And these are all the requests that are coming in and queued up, and each of these will be picked up by our email sending service. So if I quickly look at what my queue looks like, so this is, again, my Service Bus namespace. I have my created owner queue. And within that, there's the Service Bus Explorer. So we have currently 10 messages that is out there. I hope I run the peak functionality in time. Almost missed it. Well, this basically means that now our queue will be cleared up as well. But that's essentially what we have over here with the messages that are queuing up. You can essentially see them showing up here along with the queue browser experience as well. Now, we looked at the send side and the browsing side. Let's look at what the receiving side looks like. Again, the main focus over here is this is going to be completely independent of Azure Service Bus. This is just standard JMS code. The focus here is if you have an existing application that's talking to any MQ provider, any JMS provider in your on-premises or in your IaaS hosted space, all you need to do is essentially make those Maven imports, plug in the Service Bus connection string, and you're good to go. So here again, all we need to do is set up this annotated JMS listener, which is again a cool functionality that Spring JMS provides us, and that's it. That's pretty much it. We receive the message, and then we call our email service to actually process that request and send out the email. Once again, nothing is specific with the Service Bus package imports. These are all standard Spring and JMS stuff. Same thing applies for receiving from topics as well. Here, all we need to do is set up a JMS listener on the specific topic itself. We can name it, or there'll be a default name that'll be assigned to it, and the same stuff, it's over here as well. We just pull out that information and then plug that into our email service, and we'll be sending that email out to our customer. So with that, now obviously, there is, it's an easier way, a seamless migration from your on-premises broker or whatever JMS provider you have for Service Bus But the magic is only for the demo. Obviously, there's a place for us to actually put the service bus connection string. So like I mentioned, all we need to do is plug in the appropriate Maven dependency, and here I'm using the Azure Service Bus JMS starter. And along with that, since this is the Azure Spring Cloud, a first-class experience, we have a fun way of actually plugging in our configuration parameters. So this is the Azure Spring Cloud setup. Within the communication service, we actually look at the configuration, and here we can see, among other things, the service bus connection string, which I will show you because it won't expose my SAS keys, but that's basically it. And that's where I put my connection string. I put in the appropriate idle timeout and the client ID that I will plug in for the topic, and that should be good to go. So with that, let's jump back into our presentation. And like we just saw, we can look at the actual code itself. So I've added this here as a resource for completeness, so it's available for for viewing again. So this is the actual send code for the customer service when you create a brand new owner. The same thing also applies for visits as well. Sorry, this is for receiving from the queue itself. So with the JMS listener, then we have the visit service, wherein you can actually log the visit report. And you can also receive from the topic and subscription using the JMS listener. And here we have the browsing code, wherein all you need to do is use the JMS template to actually browse that specific queue name. And then there is some code to essentially, unmarshal the data that's on the queue and then have it, displayed appropriately in your UI. Then we have the configuration. Like I mentioned, all I did was plug in the JMS, Azure Service Bus JMS Spring Boot starter, and along with that, the appropriate application properties, and we were good to go. Now, as you move your, Java and Spring workloads to Azure, you may be tempted to actually use the same broker that you have in your on-premises or IaaS environment and host it on an IaaS setup itself. And I'm here to help you make that distinction and I understand the value proposition the Azure Service Bus offers you. So it's a fully managed PaaS, which means you don't have to worry about provisioning VMs and storage, installing, your Service Bus broker, and have to worry about updates and stuff like that. It's all available. All you need to do is provision a Service Bus namespace. High availability and disaster recovery is built into the broker itself, so you no longer have to worry about managing your own custom recovery logic. We have a simple, straightforward pricing. You pay on an hourly basis for the number of messaging units you provision for your namespace, and you can also integrate with other Azure PaaS offerings, which means you can have deeper integration with Azure Logic Apps, Azure Functions, Azure Monitor, and that's actually the next point. With Monitor and Autoscale, you're fairly familiar with Autoscale with Rory's previous demo, but we have the same integration with Azure Service Bus as well. You can essentially set up alerts on specific metrics that you care about, and at the same time, to adapt to any kind of workloads, any kind of increase or decrease in your workloads, you can scale up or scale down your service bus namespace resources, and that'll allow you to better manage your bill. Thirdly, we are obviously secure by design. So with deeper integration with the Azure Backbone and Azure Key Vault and all the good stuff, we allow you to have your own key encrypt your data at rest. Obviously, at Transit, we already do data encryption with TLS 1.2. We also have integration with Azure Active Directory, which means you can use managed service identity and AAD backed authentication. You can also secure access to your namespace by using virtual networks, firewalls, and private endpoints. And that makes it a pretty straightforward value proposition. And now, obviously, you can use JMS as well, which allows, like I mentioned, seamless migration from other JMS providers. And as you did see, with configuration-only code changes. So you can have the exact same code with no vendor lock-in, very easy lift and shift with only your configuration parameters changing, and you'd be good to go. So that's all I had for the demo and pitch. But here's a link to all the Azure Service Bus resources. We have a way for you to get started with JMS on your existing Service Bus Premium namespace. You can also look at a migration guide to migrate from ActiveMQ to Azure Service Bus, and also learn more about what Azure Service Bus offers. Obviously, since you're moving to from Spring on premises into Azure, this is one of the PaaS offerings that we think will add value to it. If you have any questions or any feedback, please feel free to reach out to me and my team at askservicebus@microsoft.com. And the demo, code is hosted on my repository. We'll be pushing it onto Azure samples soon. So yeah, with that, I encourage you to try it out and bring your Spring workloads to Azure.